are. We are sending out emails to those who have signed up so everyone knows what the needs are, whether it's Meals on Wheels, whether it's food bank, food pantries. With food insecurity being high, I want to make sure that you encourage people around you to go volunteer and make sure that they know that they should be wearing the masks and gloves and taking care of themselves and washing their hands frequently, changing the gloves to make sure that those people are taken care of, but they're doing so safely. Now, there is another thing. You know, Reverend Dr. J. Augustine just mentioned that you should lean into your faith. And I think that says a lot. People need encouragement right now. And if you are a person of faith, I would encourage you to lean into that faith. Think about why you are believing what you believe and make sure that you are acting accordingly. Your actions say more than words sometimes. So that means look for volunteer opportunities, look for the holes and the gaps and bring it up to people who may be able to help. Organize, encourage others. There's a statewide organization that's free. It's called coronacommunity.org. Coronacommunity.org is a website where people can go to sign up for meal delivery, food delivery, pet supply delivery, medical supply delivery. It allows people to also check that they would like a well check visit, because people are feeling isolated, and that's why they're eager to get out right now. Make sure that we're working in organized fashion to connect the dots with those people. There are people who may not know about Corona Community. Think about who those are. Share flyers in the mailboxes. This is something you can do without having to interact with folks. Sign up on the backside, your local sorority or fraternity, to sign up and have those interactions so you can deliver supplies. I will say that yesterday we got 2 stories back of thank you from Corona Community, just messages of thank you. These were people, older adults, who were extremely isolated and talked about how grateful they were to receive a few weeks of food. They were feeling a little desperate. And then all of a sudden a stranger comes to the door and leaves supplies to take care of them. That's what this is all about, neighbors helping neighbors. So I want to make sure that you know that your neighbors need you. And if you haven't heard that your neighbors need you, then I suggest you start looking around, because the numbers are going to increase for unemployment, job insecurity. Career counseling is going to be needed for some. There's going to be some redirection that's needed, and there's going to be some emotional support that's needed. So consider food, job, and emotional support as we move forward during this. And lastly, hurricane season is coming. 2 weeks. We need to be prepared. I'm praying that that doesn't happen, but we need to think about it and think about what actions we would take if for some reason we are hit, if our community was hit with a hurricane. So just think about it, make plans, volunteer help. At that volunteernc.org website that was posted up earlier, I would encourage you to reach out to us through the contact us and offer whatever it is that you can do. We'll make sure that we connect you to the right organizations. So on behalf of the governor and the state of North Carolina, thank you all for what you're doing.
Good morning again. Before I continue with the program, we have a short, brief welcome from Governor Cooper, and we're going to run that now.
Hi, everybody. Roy Cooper here. I've attended the Divine Nine Legislative Day for many years, and I wasn't about to miss this one. These are unprecedented times, and a global pandemic was not on my checklist of challenges when I took office. But the people of our state always rise to the occasion. Divine Nine organizations are devoted to uplifting our communities and dedicated to serving those in need. And your leadership during this pandemic is needed more than ever. Together, we'll continue to fight for education and healthcare and take head on the racial disparities that exist for each. And your leadership is needed to encourage everyone to do the 3 W's. Wear a face covering, wait 6 feet apart, and wash your hands frequently. If we look out for each other, we'll get through this together. Thanks.
Again, thank you for being with us this morning. I also want to thank all of our participants this morning, Reverend Dr. Jay Augustine, Dr. Everett Ward, Brother Tony Knox, Chief Justice Cherie Beasley, Brother Benjamin Money, friend Caroline Farmer. On behalf of Governor Cooper, again, it is our pleasure to not just serve you this morning, but to be a continued community partner. I want to just respond to a few things that have been asked during the session, but also give you some pointed updates to move forward. First of all, I want to remind you all that the census count is still happening. It takes about 10 minutes, but it will shape our future. We know from 2000 how important the census is, and 2010, and of course 2020 is no different. So we need you to get that word out to your communities. Visit the website from the super that was just shown on the screen, and make sure that our communities are being counted. First things, as far as kind of where we are, I think most folks are aware we're in now phase 1 of this stimulating our economy. And many of you understand kind of what that means. We are on a trajectory now, assuming the science backs that information up, to enter phase 2 on May 22nd. But while we're yet in phase 1, there have been several questions about what does this mean for communities of worship, so on and so forth. And I'll tackle that first. As we have continued, we are encouraging virtual worship, and we're encouraging, of course, with the statewide stay-at-home order, to have no more than 10 persons to be a part of worship services. However, outdoor, socially distanced, face mask donned worship experiences are allowed, and so please feel free to worship in those ways, and remember that this is not an attempt by the government to keep you from worshiping. This is an attempt, a responsible action to save your lives and to save the lives of our community members, our most vulnerable community members. So worship is allowed. We just have some restrictions as far as indoor worship, but again, you are free to gather socially distanced, and have kind of worship outside. For funerals, there is an exception that will allow appropriate social distancing, no more than 50 persons inside a building, of course, with masks and with social distancing, but crowds no longer than 50 indoors. Many folks have asked about what does it mean for college and schools. At this point, we are looking forward to being able to reopen schools in the fall, but that is aspirational. There's no guarantee that schools will be back in person as far as the beginning of the year. And so what that could mean is our students could be virtual learning through the calendar year. We don't know that for sure yet, but the science has not definitively told us that we can go back into the classroom at the beginning of the school year. So at this point, it is our plan, and we're working with our officials at the Department of Public Instruction and our different school districts to see that through. But again, that is not guaranteed. So it's possible that we could be back in the schools in the fall, but it is certainly not guaranteed. I heard Brother Money mention earlier the 3 W's: wear, wash, and wait. Wear a face mask. I see, as Caroline Farmer said a moment ago, anybody who's not speaking in this room has on a face mask, and we take that very seriously. In this entire Museum of Natural Sciences, There are actually at this point there's 6 people. When we first got here, there were 8, and I got to shout out our chief of staff, Miss Christy Jones, proud member of Delta Sigma Theta. She runs a tight ship, and before we did this program yesterday, she said, you know, if it's 9 people, if it's more than 9 people in that room, I'm coming down there. And so we take that really seriously. But shout out to the chief for her leadership. She doesn't ask us to do anything that she wouldn't do. And she represents herself, her family, the governor, and her organization, Delta Sigma Theta, very well. So thank you, Chief, for allowing us to be here. But again, wear a face mask, wash hands, with your hand sanitizers, and then wait with the social distancing. Wait 6 feet apart. I think I said last week, if you're not sure what 6 feet is, hold your hand out, double it, and that's 6 feet. Make sure you stay that far away from folks. Again, this is not for us. It's not because we think it's fun to do. It's not because we're excited to tell you that you can't get together and hug folks. We're doing it to try to save lives. When I saw the Chief Justice this morning, we both kind of shrugged and lamented the fact that we couldn't embrace, but we're doing it for our health. We're doing it for all of our health. We mentioned earlier the disparities in income, disparities in housing, disparities in the criminal justice system, the disparities with health equity. Those are things that are important. Those are things that we in the Cooper administration and Governor Cooper's team takes very seriously. And so not only do we want to be addressing those issues in our space, in our sphere of influence, we want to hear from you. So if you know of instances in your local communities where disparities are rampant, we need to hear from you. We need to know that every community is not being served in the same way. It's important in our delivery of service and being good government that we're not just talking to ourselves and feeling like that we're getting everything done. It's important that we know the facts, that we're data driven, and that we're able to proactively move forward in a responsible way, but also when we learn about things that are not operating in the way they should, that we can respond appropriately. Finally, I want to just let you know that in this space of physical distance, we are not to be socially isolated. In this space where we are being responsible about what we wear, and in our respective Divine Nine organizations, myself, a brother of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, when we're responsible about what we wear, our face masks, or even our colors, that those things don't allow us to be segregated. That this is a time for us to stand together and to be on one accord like never before. It's our division that harms us, but we're not divided now. What we are is divinely together. And so in this space, we need to be maximizing our resources. I heard Caroline speak a moment ago about all the ways to get involved. I know many of our organizations are already doing that. My chapter brothers over in Elizabeth City have been helping out with the food bank, and we need more folks to get involved with the food banks all across the state of North Carolina. You can imagine that many folks have given to the food banks over the months and years, and now many of those folks are relying on the food banks for service. And so in our respective mission statements that involve service and friendship, remember community. Remember community as well. We are one North Carolina community. We're all trying to work together to help each other. And so I'll remind you that while we are, again, physically distanced, that we are to be socially responsible and socially entangled in this web of friendship and brotherly and sisterly love. Again, on behalf of Governor Cooper, 75th Governor of the state of North Carolina, my name is Jeremy Collins. I thank you so much for allowing us to be here in this space. Again, I saw a moment ago that our website, please stay in contact with us, governor.nc.gov. Again, that website's governor.nc.gov. Visit that space, write into us, let us know, not only if there's a problem, let us know if you need something. Let us know if you're in search, if you want to do volunteerism work and you need some sort of PPE, or if you need access to any resource that we can point you in the direction of. That's what we're here for. We're not just here for show. We want to be of service. So contact us there. Let's stay in touch. Let's stay engaged. We appreciate your partnership. We appreciate all the opportunities that we get to work with you, and we're looking forward to working with you through this pandemic and beyond. At this point, we're going to turn it over now to Ms. Karen Brinson-Bell, who is the Executive Director of the North Carolina State Board of Elections.
Thank you, Jeremy. I just need to make a check to make sure that you all can hear me since I'm participating remotely. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm appreciative that you asked me to be with you this morning, and it's just imperative that we share information with as many North Carolinians as we possibly can regarding elections and what it is that we're doing to respond to this pandemic. Similar to the Chief Justice, we tried to get out in front of this very quickly. Even as far back as March the 12th, we issued a public statement. I took proactive measures to have as many of the state and county staff teleworking while still making voting and the materials and information that voters need accessible to all North Carolinians. We issued a number of memo to our counties authorizing them to take those proactive measures. We began a national effort as state election directors to have an infrastructure working group that was with the Elections Assistance Commission and the Department of Homeland Security. I've been attending weekly sessions of the National Association of State Election Directors as we try to learn from each other, especially when you consider what we saw take place in Wisconsin, for example. I don't want North Carolina to be in those circumstances, and we're not going to have that. I organized a task force that included 10 counties from across our state, as well as other state election officials, and also state emergency management officials, to outline what we felt like would best protect the citizens of North Carolina and allow us to continue to deliver voting. And then we've continued to be in consult with our state emergency management partners, our federal partners, and others to help us know how to conduct elections in this type of environment. We've prepared for natural disasters before. We've prepared for large turnout elections before. We are a logistics operation, and we plan months and years in advance for these big days. And but it's still something that's very new to us, and we want to make sure that we take every precaution possible. We are communicating this information routinely through press releases and information with the media and on social media, but we constantly update our page, ncsbe.gov, and then /coronavirus will actually get you to the specifics of what we've been doing for coronavirus. It was on the 20th of March that I issued an executive order that took some further precautions, and particularly postponed a second primary that we had scheduled for what would have been yesterday. We moved that to June 23rd. That is unprecedented. I never thought that I would be in this position in the first place. I'm just a gal from Duplin County, born and raised in Kenansville, North Carolina, but I'm humbled to be at the helm of elections for this state, and to know that what we do in elections, I've often said, is we don't consider how we're going to stop or cancel an election. We figure out how we're going to proceed. And it was that decision to postpone that was the best measure that we could do to proceed. We do not have the authority, nor would we want to postpone our November election. So the presidential election will take place on November 3rd and across the country, and we will do our part to ensure that that election goes off as smoothly and as safely as possibly can be done. I gave a report to the State Board of Elections on the 20th of March where I stated very clearly, and I say to you now, we will ensure that all forms of voting are available to North Carolinians in November. You will have the opportunity to vote absentee by mail. One-stop early voting will continue to be open and available in those weeks preceding Election Day, and we will have our polling places open on Election Day. I've got a quotation up on the screen, and this is the statement that I've continued to say. We will ensure that all North Carolinians are able to exercise their right to vote without fear of exposure to disease when they cast their ballot. And I will hold to this commitment. I actually have learned while we've been together this morning that I've learned now that I have family members in Duplin County who have tested positive. And so while it was heartfelt for me to ensure that all North Carolinians would be safe and able to exercise their right to vote, it's personal now, and I'm going to ensure that everything is done possible. It's a family member who taught me the value of the right to vote, and that family member is going to be able to vote, and they're going to win this battle against COVID-19. And I hope and pray that you will take those precautions too, and know that we will ensure that your safety is of utmost importance when you or others go to vote in November. I am proud of the partnership that we developed and were able to roll out in response to COVID-19. We developed a partnership. We have ongoing working relationships with NCDMV, but we were able to realize the opportunity to deliver online voter registration applications during this time. That's a tool that we will keep in place, but it is especially important when folks are in a stay-at-home or trying to self-isolate, and when we need to have social distancing in place. So I believe that many within the Divide Nine have developed materials to help others understand how to utilize this tool. But if you need any assistance in helping direct folks on this tool, please let me know. Is anyone who is an existing customer with DMV, whether that be because they have a North Carolina driver's license or DMV issued ID, can utilize the service, and in doing so, they're able to update their voter registration or their voting address, their mailing address. But they also, if they've been a DMV customer but never registered to vote, then they can do so through this online application. We made recommendations to the legislature, and we think these are sound steps to take to ensure the safety of all voters. We are asking that they put in place the ability for voters who request an absentee ballot to do so. Right now it's in person or by mail, but we are also asking that fax and email be allowed, and we've also proposed an online portal that would allow this to take place. We have recommended that there be prepaid postage for return absentee ballots. A time like coronavirus is not a time when we need people going to the post office to get stamps or rely on others to do that for them. The easiest thing to do is for us to find a way to fund prepaid postage on those absentee by mail envelopes, so that all that you or anyone else has to do is to put it in the mailbox right outside of your front door. That's what we're asking for in that recommendation, and we hope that they will consider it. Right now, North Carolina in our absentee by mail process requires 2 witnesses before that ballot can be returned. We're asking for that to be reduced or eliminated so that we can abide by social distancing. And we also know that more than 70% of our registered voters in North Carolina, those households with voters, more than 70% of those households are only 1 or 2 people living in those households. That's a lot of folks, and that makes it difficult for us to find that second witness. So that's one of the recommendations we've made. We're also concerned about how we conduct voting for those who are in care facilities, nursing homes, or the hospital, and want to make sure that we take provisions there, because it should, in the times like this, it should not be a crime for one of those workers to assist a voter. We understand why that's been in place. We want to protect the vote in North Carolina, but we want to protect people during this time as well. And then we want the legislature to provide the match. We need about $4 million from this state in order for us to receive over $22 million from the federal government. That money has been allotted so that we can do the things necessary to make our voting safe and accessible. And we want to follow through with those things. But we need that match from our legislature. Again, I stated that we will provide all 3 voting options. We will be providing absentee by mail. Currently, most North Carolinians do not participate, do not exercise their right to vote by mail. In previous elections, we've only seen about 4 to 5% of the ballots that are cast be by absentee by mail. However, we're anticipating that we'll see 30 or 40% of the ballots cast in that manner. And so we're going to need to do a lot of education to help folks understand that process. In North Carolina, we do not require an excuse in order to receive a ballot, but we do require a form be submitted, and that request form has to be mailed or delivered in person currently. So we want to make sure people understand that step and get it to us in time for us to return the ballot. And then I mentioned the witness requirement that's currently in place, and we are working to make sure that that's well understood and that we have good instructions that go out with the ballot so that everyone can have that ballot count if that's the way they choose to vote. But we will ensure that we have in-person voting both with one stop and election day. And what we'll have to do is going to be a little different. Voting will look a little different in October and November. We will have social distancing measures in place. We will have the protective gear that's been mentioned. We'll offer masks to any voter who wishes to wear one. We'll have hand sanitizer. We'll make, each voter is going to get their own pen to mark their ballot. We're not going to try to clean pens. Take that pen with you and use it some other time. That's our plan. We're going to wipe down those surfaces. We're going to have plexiglass barriers in between the check-in station and the voter so that we're not spreading germs that way. We're looking at different facilities that we can use. So there's a lot going on to make sure that voting carries forward in a safe and secure manner. I'll ask, what can you do? And I get asked that a lot myself. And it really boils down to 3 areas. And you already do a lot of this. And we'll just ask that you continue to do so. Help others register to vote. And if you're not registered to vote, do so. Then make sure that you and others review your voter registration information and your polling place location. That will be one of the challenges, is to make sure that we have polling places that are in facilities that allow for the social distancing. And so we will be mailing to every voter if we move their polling place, but it's still a good thing to check before you go to vote in case we've had some incident at the polling place or something along those lines. So review that information and make sure that it's up to date. And then we're asking, if you'll step to the front lines and be a poll worker. There's lots of opportunities and ways to be involved in our system, but there is probably no greater way to be a servant to democracy than to be a poll worker and be one of those folks who ensures that folks are checked in at the polls, that they're able to put that ballot in the tabulator, and that they're able to receive that, as I've got up on the screen, that I voted sticker. So we would just ask that you would be a part of that as well. Contact your county board of elections if you would like to be a poll worker. We also have information on our state board website at ncsbe.gov. And with that, I tried to keep it short, Jeremy and Marcus. So with that, I've left time for questions, but I don't think we're necessarily set up for a live Q&A. But there's my phone number. That's my direct line here at the State Board of Elections. And that's my email, karen.bell@ncsbe.gov. It's a hectic time, but I will try to respond to any questions that you may have. And please, if we can be a part of other outreach opportunities, I have a fantastic training and outreach team that are part of this agency, and if I'm not available, then I can help them be available for other opportunities that you might have to interact with others, whether it's online or hopefully soon to be in person. So And with that, I will, it looks like I did have a couple of questions, and I'll try to get to that unless y'all need me to end. So just interject if you need me to stop. What measures do you have in place to ensure there is no voter fraud? We did put in some of the measures, and one of the things that we've done is take voter fraud from a misdemeanor to a felony offense. We also worked with the legislature. I recommended prepaid postage back in the fall because I think once you remove that need for someone else to pay for the postage or to deliver that ballot, then you've enabled the voter to take responsibility, to take voting into their own hands and not need someone else. The witness requirement is in place in North Carolina to try to help prevent voter fraud. And the biggest thing I think is necessary is for everyone to realize what the trusted sources of information are. Misinformation and disinformation often lead to what problems we do have in voting. Voter fraud is not rampant. It is a very rare thing, but it's important to know the right information, and that comes from the county boards of elections and the state board of election and the organizations that work with us directly, so we can help ensure that the right information is out there. Those are some of the efforts that ensure that there is not voter fraud. Online voting, there are still security measures with online voting, and that's why we've not moved to that. That's a question that's been put forward to me. There have been a few states that have tried to do that in some circumstances, and there's security risks that are in place. We also recognize that not everyone has access to the internet, and we don't want to put in a barrier for people to vote. Our goal is to make voting as accessible as possible. And let's see, what actions are being taken to waive the witness element of the absentee ballot process, those who live alone? So we have made that recommendation to the legislature. It is in our law that it be 2 witnesses. That was passed sometime back by the legislature. So it will need to be a legislative action based upon our recommendation as to whether we are able to remove that witness element or not from our absentee ballot process. Why are we not making masks mandatory? I think that's in part in coordination with our emergency management and our health and human services folks. At this point, I'm not in a place to say that those are mandatory, but we certainly will make sure that we are ordering at a quantity that where every voter that comes to vote will have the opportunity to wear a mask, and we will ensure that our poll workers are wearing masks to protect them. Do you need me to stop at this point? Because I have several additional questions, but I'm concerned I'm running past my time. I will follow up on these other questions if Jeremy or Marcus can get those to me, and then we can circulate a document by email at some other point if that's an appropriate step. But I really appreciate you giving me this time. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to working with you further. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Also, while we are waiting for the governor's office to join us again, we would like to invite everyone to submit your questions in the Q&A section during the entire portion of today. And as our leaders entertain questions, we will try to get to as many as possible. Thank you.